Goldman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
Well, fortunately for the Republican Party this year, probably anybody up here could probably beat Obama. So.
Funny line last night from Ron Paul and the debate in Iowa. Good morning, 7:07 on a Friday morning. Brian Neiman, Mary Catherine Ham, and Brian Wilson talked a lot about the debate this morning. Susan Ferrechio was there covering it for the Washington Examiner. Susan, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We were talking about saying, really no home runs, but no errors either. How did you see the debate last night?
Yeah, I thought so. It followed the narrative of some of the past debates where you had Ron Paul sounding a little bit out in the outfield on foreign policy, and you had Mitt Romney defending some of his waffling or more moderate views in the past. And I think also, as we've seen in the past, Michelle Bachmann really hitting these other candidates hard. She's trying to break out of bottom of the polls. And so she puts her all into every one of these debates, and she made landed some pretty solid punches on Newt Gingrich. She clearly was under his skin, was the only person who really accomplished that during the debate last night, so she gets some credit for that. And I thought, as usual, Romney held steady, as he always does. No major gaps, no $10,000 bet. And Gingrich kept his temper in check despite the attacks that were coming at him from Ron Paul and from Michelle Bachmann. Not from Mitt Romney, as I would have predicted. I don't think Mitt Romney wants to go at it with Newt Gingrich. I think he's picking up on the fact that Iowans out here don't like the bickering and the fighting, and so he's trying to play the same card that Newt Gingrich is playing, which is that I'm above it all, and I am not going to be critical of my opponent. So you're seeing a little bit of that in the debate as well. But you're right; it was not no real big fireworks. But I think a substantive debate, and I think one that will definitely play in the minds of Iowa caucus goers as they make their minds up in these final 2 weeks.
Susan, is there a sense on the ground of anyone having momentum that's perhaps outside of the conventional wisdom from what we see in the national press, or anyone who shot themselves in the foot or capitalized last night?
Well, I think, Perry is interesting. He's got his Faith and Freedom tour. He's going around on his bus and talking to people about, and people seem to be talking about his faith, and that's important to them. And so he's got these ads running out here, and the voters I talked to were saying that really matters to them, that they like that he's willing to be so open about it and talk about it that way. It's interesting. I do hear a lot of people talk doubtfully about Gingrich, that he's someone that they like to begin with, but now they're hearing more and being reminded more about the Gingrich of the past, and they're less certain of him. And I think that's reflected in some of the poll numbers. You see him coming down a little bit, not nationally, but in Iowa. And so I think that could be a problem for him as we head into these final weeks. He's been ahead, but he's sliding down enough now. With 2 weeks, it's possible that there could be an upset. Ron Paul. Ron Paul could win this thing.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. By the way, I should mention you're at the airport right now, so that's what's going on in the background.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, we're still happy to have you. What about Ron Paul? Because a lot of people have suggested to me that Ron Paul's organization is very solid, that his people are passionate, and with Newt's softening numbers, and you're right, in Iowa there are some signs that his support is softening. Could Ron Paul walk away with this?
I think it's possible he could win. His backers are so rabidly enthusiastic for him, and that is really what matters here. It's you've got to get people out to vote, and that can be tough on January 3rd, and you've got to be organized to do that. And everybody knows here that Gingrich is just now really scrambling to get organized. And Romney hasn't really put much in, because remember, Romney was playing it kind of not really compete here and just move on to victory in New Hampshire, and then kind of at the last minute he decided to get in and compete in Iowa. So he's not really super organized either. So in Santorum, although Rick Santorum has been here quite a bit, he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the same resources that Ron Paul has. Ron Paul's raised a lot of money, so has Rick Perry, but Ron Paul has got these really, really loyal backing and very enthusiastic backing, and that is really going to play in here, and that could help him win, for sure.
We're talking with Susan Ferrechio from the Washington Examiner, who was at the debate last night in Iowa. You've spent a couple of days down there now. What's it like covering it or seeing how the people of Iowa are reacting to the ads, especially that are on TV and radio on a regular basis? Are they having any impact?
Absolutely, and like I said, the most interesting thing this week was with Gingrich. And you watch those poll numbers come down, and you talk to voters, and they say, "Well, you know, he was sitting on the couch next to Nancy Pelosi." Now that was an ad Ron Paul put out that showed the infamous commercial now that Gingrich said was the biggest mistake of his life, where he sat on the couch next to Nancy Pelosi and talked about the need to address global warming. That's not going over well here in Iowa, I will tell you. People, that ad has been running over and over and over, and people, it's resonating, clearly. People hear it's like, oh, you know, you're hearing that. And so who is that helping? It's helping people like Michelle Bachmann. It's helping people like Rick Perry, who's going around saying, give me a second look. You know, I know I was bombing in all the debates, but give me another look. And so they're looking. They kind of turn their noses up a little bit at Gingrich, going, oh. And of course, Romney's never conservative enough for the people in Iowa. So you have someone like Rick Perry out there, who's people are like now taking another look at the guy, and he's going on this big tour, 48 city tour with his bus, and you know that in itself could have a big impact. But even more so, he's got a lot of money. He can run these ads. That's what's really helping him.
And that could happen. Another reason it seems is because so many voters in Iowa have said, "Well, I sort of support this," but their support in many cases was not solid. They were willing to reconsider up until the last moment.
Oh, and it's not solid now either. If you look at some of the polling numbers, people are not really set on their candidate. Either they're undecided. There's a huge, huge swath of the undecided voter, but there's also people who have a candidate, but they're not so, they're not absolutely convinced that that's the one for them. So it's very possible people could change their mind. So this thing truly, 2 weeks out is up in the air.
Yeah,
Susan, do you know 2 weeks out, are we at capacity on ad buys? Are they all gone, or is a late influx of money for Newt, can he buy anything with it?
Oh, I think you'll see more ads. I know everyone was asking Romney about that today after the debate, and he didn't rule out running more ads. I think for sure that you'll see more advertising between now and January 3rd.
Okay. All right, Susan, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.